Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reading, I was about to say playing. I'm going to be reading I'm going to be talking about New Talent Showcase 21st Century AD in New Talent Showcase issue 12. That in? I'm going to keep that in. Oh, look at that ad. Gotta love these ads from back then. I'm going to be talking about New Talent Showcase issue 12, as I said. And this is a series, anthology series, featuring a bunch of different stories by different creators. And these creators are indie creators from back in the day. These are, this is new talent, up and coming talent that DC wanted to basically show off. And this was just kind of a side series that they did. And it didn't actually last for that long. 20 issues, a little less than 20 issues, if I remember correctly. And wait, that's short? Nowadays, most series run that long. Jokes aside. Yeah, that was pretty short back then. And this first story is quite good. This almost reminds me of Mangazine. If you guys remember Mangazine, I covered that not very long ago. Actually, a while back, if I remember correctly. Click the card in the top right to view that. But it's quite similar to that, but it's a Western magazine, basically. And what is this first story? Of Time and the River. Of Time and the River is the best story in here by far, in my opinion. Good thing that they had it be the first story here. It centers around two college-age two college-age kids that are in, is it somewhere in the Middle East, India? I don't exactly remember. It'll say up there, but I'm not going to sit here and read it. Nonetheless, they are going throughout the streets, see a odd fellow start climbing down a ladder there. He goes into a hideout underneath this bridge, and they decide to follow him. The guy's smoking it up and having a gay old time down in this den here, and the guy starts talking to him, and basically, he says these magic words. He tells him to scram. And before he scrams, the guy says some magic words and is able to teleport through time into the Egyptian times. And I think or he goes with him the first time. Nonetheless, basically, there's this mysterious man in this city that Mr. Blondie over here decides to, I guess they're both blonde, but the light-haired blonde kid wearing the red blazer decides to follow the guy and continually study him and what he's doing, because he saw him disappear into the Egyptian, an era long since past in Egyptian time. So he's following him around, sees the magic words, and decides that he's going to record the magic words and say it himself. He teleports back to the same time period that our a foreign fellow teleported to, and is amazed at all the things he sees, including the women there. And is able to teleport back into his time period just in time. And basically he figures out that, what was it? Oh, yeah, he teleports back. The guy figures it out that time traveling, whatever I call them, foreign fellow, figures out that he is traveling through time, doesn't want him to mess up the plan that this guy has, which is basically, I forget if you learned a little later, but basically his plan is that he wants to take over the current time, if I remember correctly. I think that's it. Nonetheless, and he kills him in cold blood, and he's able to transform while stabbed. He's able to transform and hop to the modern time period before he's completely bled out. He gives the tape recorder to his friend and tells him what's happening. And the friend didn't believe anything he was saying prior, but, it's too late. Believe your friend next time. That's the lesson. This is kind of brutal for a comic from this time period, isn't it? I mean, wow. It's not super brutal, but obviously the guy, stabbed in the gut, a kid, 18, 19, stabbed in the gut and, bleeds, telling his friend the mistake he made. And there's some sexual references and half-naked women. So it's a little risque for the time. I'm kind of surprised. But it has the Comics Code Authority. There's some stuff later involve human sacrifice, but it's okay. It's the 80s, right? People played with lawn darts. I mean, this is nothing compared to what people played with, did back then. Anyways, and basically he gets in this his friend friend gets basically entangled in this and has to save the day. Holy crap. Again, that what I was saying. I don't know if that's holy crap worthy, but you get the point. Anyways, and he basically gets entangled in this and is going to try and stop this, foreign fellow from taking over the current time period and using that ability to screw everybody over. And it ends, in a peaceful and resolved manner where he gets engulfed in flames. But as he's running away from the cops arrive, he goes back to the Egyptian times to basically evade them, but then his Walkman runs out of batteries. So that was a very, in 2 panels, very quick ending, but thankfully he has this lady to hold him, so he's not going to be half bad. He's stuck in this time period, sure, but he's won over the hearts of the hearts. She has multiple hearts, won over the heart of that woman, so, it's not half bad. And yeah, that was that. The best story in here by far. The next story here is basically a Goonies kind of story. It involves a group of kids, and there's this haunted, I almost forgot. It starts out like a Goonies story, ends almost like, I don't know. Do you guys remember reading? Has anybody read those different like golden key? Is that what they're called? I don't know. Comics from back in the day that were like from the 60s and 70s, and they came out at other times as well. But they were basically made to appeal to either women or young children, and or like young girls or just young children. Period. You could say not Archie. That was too sophisticated or was too mainstream. I'm talking more the niche stuff, the stuff that had names that nobody knew, the stuff that was like weird. I don't know. I have some stuff like that, I think, if I remember correctly, that I inherited from my mother, and it involved like, kids that have magic powers, and then the story's over, or like a talking dog, but it's not a, a brand name talking dog. It's like the off-brand comics, that you would get. That's what this story felt like. He breaks into their yard, goes into their yard because he's dared to, gets greeted by this young girl. She figures out that the family is magic, and he basically gets to see all the stuff that they do that's magic, basically. It's a very short story, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. Not bad, not great either, not what you would pick up this issue for. This issue can be found for like $1 in dollar bins and things. That's how much I got it for, which is cheaper than the newsstand price, cheaper than the price you would have got it for. This wasn't a newsstand copy. Wow. So, the first story by in and of itself probably was worth $1 for me. I love the Twilight Zone ending. This wasn't that good. That's why I had not much to say about it, along with it being so short. And then even shorter, you follow that up with a 1-page story. This is a continuation of stories from past showcase issues that I haven't read. So it didn't make a ton of sense, but it made enough sense for me to be like, oh, that's kind of cute, I guess. Oh, it's over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in 9 panels. And but it says down here that only you can save Nick in time because what did it say? Set right readers, write to DC and or your congressman, even the president, but do it soon. Help us save Nick in the nick of time. Because this is a sequence is being taken out of showcase issues at this time. So the writers basically put at the end to email and complain to DC to have it be included in the next showcase issue and for it not to be taken away. Talk About Talent is a cool section where they basically have interviews with the different writers of the different issues. It's always a little behind as far as I know, so it's like the last issue that it talks about. If I think that's true. I think, if I remember correctly, the interviews are from the writers from the last issue because they couldn't put it in the issue that's coming out because it would take too long or something. I think that's the case. Kind of like how letter pages, if you don't know, normally, of course, are, of the issues that had come out prior, because to answer the letters and put it in print, the next issue was already, Anyways, this one, Privilege, was very, it felt, it felt like it was written by, it's like something that somebody would write in college or high school that was like a very far, like extreme leftist, and about like the evils of capitalism and the evils of government. it was very silly in that sense, because it's like it's one thing spewing from a college girl's mouth, but it's different when it's illustrated and it's like Peter Pan running around fighting the system. So it was entertaining here, and it ended on a cliffhanger, right? Yeah, it ended on a cliffhanger, so if I remember correctly. So that was kind of cool. I like those kind of endings where it's like a little exciting there. I forget if it continues in the next one. I read the next issue after this. This is 12 or 13. I read the one after that, and I don't actually remember seeing a continuation, but it could have continued. I don't know. It doesn't matter. This story was the second best story here by far, and this was a good kind of good and not exactly on the same quality, but still quite good, like the first story, and was more full. You can kind of tell that some of the writers, I don't know if they don't have confidence, I don't know if they don't know how to continue stories, but some of these comics or stories are real short. We're talking like a few pages, and then other ones, normally the better ones from what I've read, because I've read a few of these, seems like the better ones are always longer. This one's quite is about the longest story in here, along with the first story here, are like the longest ones, and those happen to be the best ones. I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but this basically centers around there's a group of these monks, and a long period of time has passed because they put themselves in hibernation. They were the last of their kind, and they're protectors of the world, so to speak, and they were running out of power. They were unearthly forces. Anyways, so they put themselves in this sleep state until the 21st century when they woke up. They're going to die, and they need to find people that are going to carry on their legacy to be protectors of the world against unearthly supernatural forces. There you go. And there's basically, then we cut to this fighter here, and he's a world-class fighter, boxer. And he's having girl issues basically, and definitely not a fit candidate to be follow up their legacy, but supposedly he's the only one that can do it for some reason. That's not really explained. The plot's kind of cliche, but it doesn't matter because it's fun. And he's continuing his life and goes into an antique shop. Is it like Gremlins? Yeah, goes into an antique shop. Or Chucky, right? The first Child's Play. There's like that old, there's an antique shop in that movie too, right? Where they get the doll. Anyways, I don't know, whatever. So he enters this antique shop, talks to the owner there, and basically the owner wants him to fight, and they offer him like a large sum of money, I think. No, they don't. Yeah, they say a contest where you'll win a prize or something like that. But the prize for them is that, the prize is that he's going to be the world savior, so to speak, that he's, the chosen fighter to carry on their legacy, and that the prophecies had foretold that someone like you will carry on, being a protector and all this stuff. Cliche, kind of dumb. And the thing here, though, is that it talks about how he fights with anger, and that, you can't fight with anger. It's the whole... You've seen this story a million times, but that's not what matters. It's about the execution. And the execution is maybe cheesy. It may not be the best written. It's stuff. All this stuff is kind of amateur work, but that's kind of the fun of it, right? Is because they're amateurs, they push the envelope. Whether it's the first story that I showed that kind of pushed the envelope in terms of content, it did a story that I've never seen before, or it's something like this, which is a story we've all seen before, but it's just kind of done in a fun, kind of tongue-in-cheek way. But it's like it takes itself seriously too. Anyway, so he fights with wrath, and that's not good, and all that kind of stuff. And then it shows that there's a evil creature from the past that was able to travel through some kind of transdimensional or time travel, basically forward into the future or something. Right? A single dimensional gateway separates Oni from Earth. Oh, Oni. Yeah, that's a real mythical creature, right? Anyways, and he's all oiled up, some fan service there. And they are training him basically to be the warrior. He, at first, he didn't want to be the warrior. He wondered why he didn't win the money prize that I talked about. And like, oh no, it wasn't money. The prize, the grand prize that you were going to win is the fact that you're the protector. And he felt double-crossed, but they were able to convince him as time went on to do one final challenge, and they're luring him into this, and they were finally able to convince him. It was a little cliche that they were able to. I don't remember the exact details, but it doesn't really matter. It was kind of like the story kind of needed him to say, fine, I'll go with you. So he went with them and was kind of shown that they have powers and all this kind of stuff. And he was trained. This other creature is obviously important and will appear when this story is continued. Or no, he appears at the end here, doesn't he? Yeah, he appears at the end. And this story actually continues and concludes, but it's kind of left on a cliffhanger as well. Like it could continue in its own series, which I don't know if it ever did. But what was I going to say? This continues in the next issue, which is good. Issue 13, I think, if this is 12. If I remember correctly, this is 12. So it continues in 13. And he's hovering an egg above his head. He's thinking about his woman and cracks the egg above his head. That's kind of a funny scene. And his final test is to jump and cross this large pit. And he says, "Are you crazy? I can't cross this large pit. What are you talking about?" And they basically are like, "Oh, well, maybe we have chosen wrong. You have failed us," that kind of thing. Danger is soon upon us. And the creature Oni, there you go, is able to go through the transdimensional gate, kills these scientists here, makes his way to their hideout, like fortress, whatever it is. And dojo, and is attacking them and killing everybody. And he has like a pain. He can feel like a spiritual connection to the other protectors because he's a protector. So he knows that he has to go back and save the day. So he goes back and tries to save the day, but he falls. What will happen? Well, you can kind of guess what happens. But that was a good story. That was enjoyable for sure. I think the first story was actually better in my opinion. I liked it a bit better, but they're both quite good. Is this worth tracking down? Should you read the other issues? Well, from what I read of the other issues, it is worth picking up if you can find these for cheap like I did, $1. You'd, of course, would have to be into these kinds of anthology stories. But I think if you're into these kinds of anthology stories, I think there's something to enjoy. A lot of these, some of these kind of feel, I don't know if dated is the right word, but I'll just use that word because it's simpler. Some of these feel dated, but in a way, that's kind of the fun of it, right? If you're into these kind of things, there's a lot of cheese. There's a lot of kind of satirical and retro enjoyment that you can get from these. And because of that and my enjoyment of more old school kind of comics like this, I certainly enjoyed it. Definitely got my dollar's worth. And it seems like each of these issues that I've read 3 of these so far. It seems like each one has at least 1 or 2 standout stories that are worth the price of admission. And then oftentimes they have other stories that are more kid friendly. It seems like they really just kind of went all out, and each issue of these new talent showcases seem to have quite a variety. You go from jiu-jitsu, kung fu kind of stuff to time travel to a kid story, all sorts of stuff, totally different art styles throughout them and so on. So that's definitely cool. And yeah, again, I'd say it's worth it. And thanks for watching. Aloha.